The late 18th century was this incredible pressure cooker. The world was just simmering with brand new ideas and some really, really old frustrations. Today, we're going to flip open the revolutionary playbook that lit a fire across the globe and completely redrew the map of the world.
So, what do these three groups really have in common? I mean, on the face of it, they're worlds apart, right? Different cultures, separated by oceans. But if you zoom in on this one specific moment in time, you find this incredible shared story.
And yeah, that's really what it all boils down to. Every single one of them, in their own unique way, just hit a wall. They looked at who was in charge: a king an ocean away, a ridiculously out of touch monarchy, a foreign occupier, and they all came to the same conclusion. The system wasn't just bent, it was completely broken.
To really get how they all ended up at that same breaking point, you have to feel the vibe of the late 1700s. This was an era just buzzing with tension. The old world of kings and aristocrats was suddenly being challenged by these wild new ideas about who should actually be calling the shots.
All right, so if you're going to write a revolutionary playbook, where do you start? Well, 9 times out of 10, it kicks off with money and a powerful feeling that things just aren't fair. Let's talk about grievances and, of course, taxes.
What's so amazing here is how you can see the exact same trigger in three different places. In America, it was being taxed on everything from paper to playing cards without having a single person to speak for them in London. In France, you had the Third Estate, which was basically everybody, getting buried under taxes like the tile, while the rich paid practically nothing. And then in Ireland, Catholics were forced to pay a tithe to support the Anglican Church, a church they didn't even belong to. It's the same story, just with a different accent. But look, being angry about taxes, that'll get you a protest, for sure. To risk everything, your life, your family, your future, for a full-on rebellion, for that, you need more than just anger. You need a big idea. You need to believe a better world is even possible.
And boom, here it is. This is the kind of thinking that lit the fuse. Guys like Rousseau weren't just complaining about a tax here or there. They were attacking the very foundation of society. This quote says it all. The whole system of kings and nobles isn't some divine plan. It's just unfair.
This whole explosion of new thinking was called the Enlightenment. It just swept across the world, spreading this totally radical idea that normal people had rights, that governments should be guided by logic, not just by the whims of a king, and that unchecked power always leads to corruption. This basically gave people the intellectual ammo they needed to demand real change.
And you can see exactly how these ideas turned into slogans and battle cries. The parallels are just stunning. America's very practical demand, no taxation without representation, is echoed in France's soaring call for liberty, equality, and fraternity. And get this, the American Declaration of Independence is followed just 13 years later by the French Declaration of the Rights of Man. They were literally reading from the same script.
So you've got the fuel, the anger, you've got the spark, the big ideas. But every fire needs a flashpoint. That one dramatic moment where all the talking stops, the fighting starts, and you know there is absolutely no going back.
For America, that moment was definitely the Boston Tea Party. This wasn't just a riot, it was pure political theater, and it was brilliant. Tossing all that tea overboard was a giant, unmistakable message to the king. We will not be pushed around, and we are done paying your taxes. Over in France, the flashpoint was the storming of the Bastille. This old medieval fortress wasn't just a jail, it was a powerful symbol of the king's tyrannical rule. When the people of Paris tore that thing down brick by brick, they were really tearing down the idea of the monarchy itself. And in Ireland, you can see them watching all of this, taking notes. The point of no return came when the United Irishmen, completely inspired by what happened in America and France, launched a massive, coordinated rebellion. This wasn't one little protest. This was an all-out military campaign to kick the British out for good. So, the playbook, grievances, ideas, flashpoint, seems pretty consistent up to now, right? Well, this is where the stories take a sharp and often brutal turn. Starting a revolution is one thing. Where it ends up, well, that's a whole different story. In France, the beautiful dream of liberty, equality, fraternity turned into an absolute nightmare. The revolution spiraled into the Reign of Terror, a period of extreme paranoia where anyone even suspected of being an enemy was sent to the guillotine. It's a terrifying example of how the best of intentions can go horribly wrong. And just try to wrap your head around this number, 200.
That's not the total number of dead. That's how many executions were happening every single week in Paris alone at the height of the terror. The revolution started eating its own children. But while France was descending into chaos, a completely different story was playing out in America. The American Revolution didn't end with a reign of terror. It ended with a constitution. They managed to channel all that revolutionary energy into building a new kind of government, one that, for all its flaws, actually lasted. And then there's Ireland. And here, the story is just devastating. The rebellion was crushed, ruthlessly. This number, around 30,000, is the estimated number of people killed. It was a staggering price to pay for a dream of freedom that ultimately failed. For Ireland, the rebellion didn't lead to a new republic. It led to the exact opposite. You have to remember, America was an ocean away from Britain. Ireland was right on its doorstep. After putting down the rebellion, the British passed the Act of Union, which basically erased the Irish Parliament and swallowed Ireland whole into Great Britain. It was a total crushing defeat.
And this timeline just lays it all out so clearly. In 1783, America gets its independence. Fast forward to 1799, and France's chaotic republic has been replaced by a military dictator, Napoleon. And just 2 years after that, Ireland loses what little self-government it had. Same playbook, 3 completely different endings.
Okay, so we've seen the shared playbook and the wildly different final chapters. What are we supposed to take away from all this? What are the echoes that still resonate today?
Well, here are the big takeaways. First, the triggers are timeless. People will always fight back against what they see as unfair taxes and having no say in their own lives. Second, ideas are powerful, maybe more powerful than armies. But, and this is the big one, the outcome is never, ever guaranteed. A revolution can create a free republic, but it can just as easily lead to a dictator or to complete and total defeat. These events didn't just change nations, they changed the world and inspired freedom fighters for centuries to come.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question, doesn't it? The very ideals that fueled these revolutions, liberty, equality, the right to govern yourself, people are still fighting and dying for those exact same things all over the world today. It really makes you wonder, are these revolutionary battles ever really over, or do they just change their names and find new battlefields?